All right, Braves fans, let's get rolling. I'm George McNair. This is State of the Braves. Guys, I'm back with you, and we are getting really close to Christmas. I hope all of you out there are having an amazing Christmas holiday season, and that it's restful, that it's with family and friends. We are certainly busy in our house. We actually got a golden retriever puppy about a week and a half ago. So if you've ever had a puppy and been through that stage of things, you know exactly what that is like. We did name our puppy Riley, so any Austin Riley fans out there can appreciate that. And she's awesome, but we are definitely in full puppy mode and busy with that on top of everything related to Christmas. So it's a good time for us, and certainly it's, baseball's a little bit on the back burner at this time of year for everybody, even for general managers. It doesn't seem like a ton of news is coming out. As of late, I think a lot of the market is being stalled by the decision of Yamamoto, and we're still awaiting that and a couple other big players that would probably open up the rest of the offseason for other clubs. So I really don't expect a lot to happen for the Braves on this side of Christmas. You get past, maybe even into the new year, and things maybe will start rolling a little bit more. I mean, honestly, the Braves don't have a ton to do except what a lot of us want them to do, and that's maybe go out and get a starting pitcher. The starting pitching market, again, with Yamamoto is kind of stalled out right now. But I still want to get into some of that in this episode and try to highlight a couple of names that maybe we haven't talked about so far that could be possibilities for the Braves. I don't want to repeat myself and just kind of roll over a lot of the same names over and over again. And so I want to give you guys a couple other thoughts, a couple other targets that maybe the Braves are looking into as we speak. But first, I want to start with some Braves news. There actually is a good bit of Braves news in terms of some awards and other things that are going on in Braves country. So 5 Braves were named to the All-MLB team. MLB started this a few years ago. It's kind of fun, it's somewhat similar to the NBA. It does first and second team All-NBA. So All-MLB team, you get a first team at each position, and you get a second team at each position as well. And I think they got most of this right. I think it's fairly straightforward. But the first team, I mean, these 3 guys are really no-brainers if you really dig into it much. And Ronald Acuna highlights really the entire first team, All-MLB team. Acuna and Ohtani are kind of the two that if you left either of them off, it kind of would be a travesty. But that did not happen. Ronald Acuna led all position players in wins above replacement this year with 8.3. Of course, Mookie Betts was pretty close to him. Freddie Freeman not too far behind, and then there's a big drop-off. Those really were the 3 best position players in all baseball by a wide margin. And Ohtani was kind of in his own category as a DH and pitcher. He had the most WAR of anybody, but that's typically going to happen if he pitches. But yeah, Acuna is at the top for sure on this team. Austin Riley he also made first team, which is really awesome for him. I think Riley oftentimes, and I've talked about this before, sometimes he gets lost in all the great players for the Braves, but also, a lot of great players at third base throughout baseball. And I think Riley is really starting to become more known nationally, even to fans who are, maybe not as in the know and, casual fans. But Riley is definitely making himself known a little bit more across baseball. He gets this first team nod at third base, edging out Jose Ramirez, who was a couple percentage points behind him in WAR this year. And then Spencer Strider, he was second among all pitchers behind Zach Wheeler in WAR. So, it's kind of funny. Strider and Wheeler are so high up on the wins above replacement scale, but of course they really didn't sniff the Cy Young in that voting. But nonetheless, Strider is there, and it's cool that he gets that notoriety to be on the first team. The second team included Matt Olson and Ozzie Albies. Olson, I mean, honestly, just because Freddie Freeman had such a great year, he gets, second team honors, even though he was 5th in all of baseball in WAR. And then Ozzie Albies actually might have snuck over someone else who could have been a little more deserving. Nico Horner, if you look at some of the numbers, and especially defensively, I think some could argue that he should have gotten second team, but Ozzie Albies had a better offensive year and certainly had better power numbers than Horner, so he gets the nod for second team. So really awesome for Ozzie and for Matt Olson there as well with second team honors. All right, and not only does Acuna kind of headline that list of first-team All-MLB, but Ronald Acuna also wins the Hank Aaron Award. And, it's just really cool when a Brave can win that award. If you don't know what the Hank Aaron Award is, it honors the best overall offensive performer in each league. And so it's no shock that Ronald Acuna, after winning the MVP award, would win this award as well. That's typically how this happens. Most MVPs will win the Hank Aaron Award, though it doesn't always come down that way, but most of the time it does. I'm not going to go through every accolade and everything that Acuna accomplished this year. You guys already know that, the home runs and stolen bases and all those things. But the fact is, totally deserving and really cool how he was able to honor Hank a little bit. If you got to see the suit that Ronald was wearing with the number 13 for his, his number and Hank Aaron's 44, both on his blazer, it was just really cool. And of course, Hank Aaron's widow was there to present the award. So just very special stuff. It's always just really cool when Braves can do anything related to Hank Aaron. And it just makes you think, can Ronald Acuna be even better in 2024 than he was in 2023? Because he was so remarkable. But I really think who we saw in 2023, I think Ronald can do that. And I think he can do it over and over again for many years to come. I mean, barring another major injury, and we all hope that doesn't happen, this guy, you could imagine him, having more stolen bases. He could get on base more and be even more aggressive, maybe still 80 or more. I mean, he's totally capable of that. You wouldn't put it behind him. I think also the power numbers are definitely something that could tick up for him, given, a certain season. I could see him going for 50 in a season. I would not put anything past Ronald Acuna. I think he can basically do anything on a baseball diamond that anyone can do, right? He is that special. And I really do think he's the best position player in baseball, and he's going to be for a long time. I think he can dominate baseball for at least the next 5 years. And what I mean by that is I think he could be the best player in baseball for a really long time. And it's really fun to think that the Braves have him locked up for at least the next 5 years, and we'll see if maybe they can extend him beyond that. Former Braves winners of the Hank Aaron Award include Andrew Jones, who did it in 2005, and Freddie Freeman, who did it in 2020. Of course, Freeman won the award, the MVP award, in 2020 as well. It is very interesting to me that Andrew Jones won the Hank Aaron Award in 2005, but did not win the MVP. Of course, that was the year that he finished second to Albert Pujols. That's the year that Andrew Jones hit over 50 home runs. And I really do think he should have won the MVP. And when you think about Andrew Jones, who's playing Gold Glove center field in 2005, he wins the Hank Aaron Award for the best all-around offensive player in 2005. How did he not win the MVP? Pujols had another great Pujols season, but man, I wish Andrew had won that award. All right, so a little bit more Braves news. Braves hitting coach Kevin Seitzer was named Coach of the Year. I didn't even know this award existed, but it's really cool. It's cool that, just the best coach across baseball, I guess this is a non-manager award, is recognized, and it certainly makes sense after the Braves' historic offensive season that Kevin Seitzer, their hitting coach, would receive this award. I recently saw a clip. I don't know. This is making its rounds, I think around social media. But I recently saw a clip of the assistant hitting coach for the Braves, Bobby Magallanes. I hope I said that right. But he is talking about how the Braves have embraced fun and competition in their hitting drills, and that just by doing that, it really unlocked another level of performance for these guys. And I think that's really cool. And you certainly saw something shift last year, right? It was a lot of the same guys who had way better seasons last year than the year before. And I think you probably have to give a lot of credit to Kevin Seitzer to embrace that type of coaching. You think who had a bad year last year? I mean, even if you consider Orlando Arcia the worst hitter in the lineup, for his career, he had a great year, right? I mean, everybody had a great year. You had multiple guys who significantly reduced their strikeout percentage. You had multiple guys who started in really bad slumps, get out of it, and have great years like Ozuna and Michael Harris. So, man, yeah, Kevin Seitzer definitely deserves this award. And I do think that Jared Kelenic, who's coming in, kind of hasn't proved himself yet in Major League Baseball. He's coming into just obviously what is a very good environment for hitting to improve. And I'm kind of excited about him and what could happen if everything kind of falls in place and he is able to realize even half of what obviously has tremendous potential. He hasn't realized it yet, but I think he's probably going into one of the best hitting environments in all baseball, obviously one of the best hitting coaches in all baseball. And if he doesn't figure it out with the Braves, he probably wasn't going to figure it out. All right, guys, more Braves news. C.J. Nitkowski has been hired as the primary color commentator to sit alongside Brandon Gaudin for Braves games. This was a surprise. Obviously Jeff Francoeur, former Brave, has been the primary play-by-play guy for the Braves over the last couple seasons. Francoeur is very likable. Him and Brandon Gaudin get along great, and I've really enjoyed their back and forth. So, I don't know much about C.J. Nitkowski. I know that he was really liked. He's coming from the Texas Rangers. So now I know he was really liked over there. But this is in part because Jeff Francoeur is stepping away, at least from the primary duties. I believe he's still going to do about 30 games a year. I think Tom Glavine will still do about 20 games a year. But Francoeur put out on social media, you can go and find it. It's a really good just public statement about why he's stepping back a little bit, and it's all about family. He has 4 young kids, and even if you just listen to Francoeur over the hours and hours and hours of baseball during the season, that he has a young family who he obviously loves and is and cares about deeply. So it is not shocking that he would make this kind of decision. We all know Jeff Francoeur is just a really solid guy. And so I could imagine, 5 or 10 years from now, we'll start seeing Francoeur maybe in a larger role again. But again, he's not going away totally. He's still going to do 30 games a year. And I actually really appreciate the decision he made to do this, obviously just putting his family first. All right, guys, well, let's get to a little bit of news through, what Alex Anthopoulos has been doing. And again, not a ton, right? Not a ton has been going on really across all baseball. But a few days ago, the Braves traded for left-handed pitcher Ray Kerr and DH Matt Carpenter. They got these guys from the Padres. The Padres also sent the Braves $1.5 million. And then about a day or two after that, Matt Carpenter was released. Most baseball fans know the name Matt Carpenter. For some time, he was one of the better hitters in the National League with the Cardinals. He also had a resurgence a couple years ago with the Yankees. Has been a very good left-handed hitter across many seasons in baseball, but the guy's 38 years old. He was mostly injured last year, and he's pretty much only a DH at this point in his career. I believe he's making around $6 million, and so that's really the way that the Braves have operated this year, right? They have been able to acquire guys, and Ray Kerr is the primary target for the Braves. It's very obvious in this trade since Carpenter was released. So, they target Ray Kerr. They're able to get him and just bring in Matt Carpenter and his money. And so the Braves are ultimately on the hook for about $4 million in order to get Ray Kerr. Now, who is Ray Kerr? He is 29 years old. He's a left-handed pitcher who only has about 30 innings in his major league career. So on the surface there, that doesn't seem like a guy you'd really want to go out and get. But Ray Kerr is a left-handed pitcher who can top out around 99 miles an hour with his fastball. And he showed some really good things last year in his brief appearances with the Padres. So, I think this is the Braves taking a flyer on a guy who has great stuff from the left side. And honestly, other than taking on some of this Matt Carpenter money, there's just no risk to this. Ray Kerr is going to make very little money, probably over the course of most of his big league career. He's controllable for 5 years. So why not go out and get him? And that's what the Braves did, right? So let me kind of step back from this, what's a fairly minor transaction, right? And just kind of reiterate to you guys, and I guess maybe you know this already, but here are the two themes that I've seen for the Braves offseason so far. The first theme is acquiring high upside, younger players with years of control by taking on short-term bad contracts. So, the Braves have, through trades, they've acquired Aaron Bummer, they've acquired Jared Kelenic, they've acquired Ray Kerr, and all three of these guys are controllable for multiple years. And, they took on some money in order to get them. The only cost to these moves is some money now, right? The Braves are certainly, their payroll for 2024 is going up because they're taking on these bad contracts in order to get these guys. And, if these guys bring long-term value, then these are great moves. If these guys don't play well, then, okay, you're going to have to eat this money, but you're really not on the hook for money beyond 2024. Some of the money is attached to 2025, but the Braves are printing money right now at the Battery, and I think for the upside, especially for Jared Kelenic, it's definitely worth it. And so, with the moves that the Braves have made, that's basically what's happening, and if it seems confusing otherwise, well, that's what it's about, right? You take on some bad contracts to get some guys that you might not be able to get otherwise. Some teams are in not great financial shape right now. The Padres, the White Sox, and the Mariners, basically all three of those teams are looking to dump money, in part because of, these TV deals where they're not getting the money that they were in the past. The Braves are in much better position to take on money. I think right now the Braves have the third highest projected payroll in baseball, which, man, it's been a long time since that's happened. So that's how they're playing it. They're playing it that way instead of maybe going out and getting a big time free agent with maybe more name recognition. But that's, we'll see if it plays out. So that's the first theme that I see. The second big theme of the off season I've seen is the Braves reshaping the bullpen with high velocity and plenty of left-handed pitchers. So let's just go through again how the Braves have targeted their bullpen. And I do think this is one of the big things Anthopoulos saw at the end of the year, that he said, we want to change this. They had a good bullpen last year, but, the Braves had a lot of soft-tossing veteran guys who generally had good years, not all of them. McHugh had a down year, that sort of thing. But generally the Braves bullpen was solid. But, when you get to the playoffs especially, you want to be able to punch guys out with high velocity. And I think that's what you're seeing. The Braves are creating a bullpen with a lot of nasty stuff. So, again, the Braves have added Aaron Bummer, left-hander, can throw about 95, sinking fastball. They have him for 3 years. They've added Ray Kerr. They actually have him for 6 years. I've already mentioned he can top out around 98, 99 miles an hour from the left side. Ronaldo Lopez, that's really been their biggest free agent addition so far. They have him for 4 years. He's honestly been one of the best relievers in baseball over the last couple of years. There is some talk about them maybe using him in the starting rotation, but I think if all things work the way they want it to work, he's going to be in the bullpen. Of course, they re-signed Pierce Johnson and Joe Jimenez, both who have, 95-mile-an-hour fastballs. Johnson is back for 2 years. Jimenez is back for 3 years. And then let's talk about the rest of the bullpen that's staying. Raisel Iglesias still here for 2 years as their closer. And then you have lefties Dylan Lee, A.J. Minter, Tyler Matzik coming back from Tommy John. Dylan Lee is controllable for 5 more years. Minter this is his last year, but Tyler Matzik is controllable for 2 more years. And then the Braves also have Angel Perdomo and Penn Murphy kind of on the back burner. These guys are injured right now. 5 more years of control for both those guys. So my point is the Braves have a ton of controlled arms in their bullpen, with only A.J. Minter being the guy that they're going to have to make a decision on next year as to will they bring him back or not. I think Iglesias could be a guy that maybe gets traded next offseason. He's making a lot of money. I've talked about Iglesias a little bit in the past. But they have so many good arms in this bullpen right now for multiple years that I think Anthopoulos has really built out a long-term path forward for the bullpen that very few teams have. And I think you got to feel good about where the bullpen is right now. You can't guarantee performance really from anybody in the bullpen. So you just need a lot of depth. And I really like the fact that it's a lot of depth with a lot of stuff. You get to the postseason, we know from 2021 with the night shift and especially Tyler Matzik, when you have a guy who can come in from the bullpen and punch people out in big situations, that's really what you need. And I'm really glad the Braves are doing this. I don't think the bullpen is the only thing that they need to tackle, right? But I think this is a really good step forward. And I will also say, by the way, guys, I want to go back to Jared Kelenic just for a minute. I really do like the Kelenic move the more I've kind of given it some thought. If you brought back Eddie Rosario, and we all love Eddie for what he did in 2021, but you kind of know what you're getting, right? You're getting basically a league average hitter who maybe can get hot for stretches and carry you for a couple games or a week or so. But I think Kelenic has just a ceiling that Rosario never really had in his game. Now, will he meet that ceiling? Will he ever realize that? It's uncertain, but like I said before, I think he's stepping into such a good situation with the Braves. I think it's more likely than not that that he has a really good career path with the Braves moving forward. All right, let me circle back to the bullpen. Now that I've mentioned that on Kelenic, okay, let me circle back and make one more point about this bullpen that Anthopoulos has built this offseason. Again, it's controllability with a lot of these guys, but it's also the number of lefties. And I'll just list them off really quickly one more time. Aaron Bummer, Ray Kerr, Dylan Lee, A.J. Minter, Tyler Matzik. Okay, you've got 5 legitimate lefties. If Lee and Matzik are healthy this year, you have 5 legitimate lefties with really good stuff in that bullpen. And that's something that most teams just don't have. And when you consider, to me, 3 teams that stand in the way of the Braves potentially winning another World Series, there's some big-time lefties that they're going to have to get out. Very likely that the Braves are going to have to go through Philadelphia again. Okay, we got to get Harper out. We've got to get Schwarber out. Even a Bryson Stott, who can be so frustrating when he's up, at bat, fouling off pitchers. Okay, we have to get those guys out. When we face the Dodgers, this one's obvious, right? Ohtani and Freddie Freeman, and even Max Muncy, right? Big-time lefties, you got to be able to punch out. And then even if you get back to the World Series, a team like the Astros with Alvarez and Kyle Tucker and those guys, right? You always need lefties out of your bullpen. Most teams have 1 or 2 good ones. If the Braves have 4 or 5 that all have legitimate strikeout stuff, that just puts them ahead of almost every team in baseball. Okay, so let's finish this episode, guys, where I want to identify Three other pitching targets that I have not talked about yet so far this offseason. Things are organic and they kind of change as we go. Several pitchers are off the board since I talked with you last. Tyler Glasnow was traded to LA for a pretty steep price of prospects. He also signs an extension with LA. Now, I told you guys, Glasnow was not high on my list for the Braves, in part because if you just look at his career, when he's on the mound, he's really good. The fact is, he's just not on the mound enough. And I think what the Braves, they went after Aaron Nola. I think what the Braves are really focused on is guys who are reliable, right? Are you going to be in the playoffs? Are you going to be available for the playoffs if we bring you in? And Glasnow is just a big question mark. And if he is healthy going into the playoffs, I mean, that's huge for LA. It certainly makes them a much tougher team. But, man, he is just a big question mark, and he has been throughout his entire career. So, the fact that LA would do this isn't surprising to me. They had the prospect capital. They have, obviously, the purse strings to do it, especially with the weird Ohtani contract deferral stuff. But, he goes to LA, so he's off the board. And interestingly, Kansas City has also been pretty aggressive in free agency this offseason. They snatched up both Michael Wacha and Seth Lugo, who pitched for San Diego last year. Both these guys, I think you could consider maybe third or fourth starters. I think third might even be kind. Maybe fourth or fifth starters in most rotations. It's good for Kansas City, who has not been good for a while, and this definitely improves their pitching staff. But these are two potential guys that I think the Braves were maybe looking at, especially Seth Lugo, that are off the board. So you still have a couple names in free agency, Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery. They're still out there, and the guys that have been talked about with trades like Dylan Cease and Corbin Burns, obvious trade targets for a lot of teams, including the Braves. We know all of that. That's still very possible. I think the Braves could definitely be in still on Dylan Cease or Corbin Burns. But let's talk about three other names that I would like to at least have in the back of our minds. And the first one I really like, and that's Framber Valdez. Now, Framber Valdez, you guys should know him because we faced him in the World Series a few years ago. He is with the Astros. And you might be asking, why would the Astros make him available? You might have seen this rumor this week. Multiple teams have been checking in with the Astros on Framber Valdez. Now, just because teams are checking in does not mean he's actually being made available. And most teams are at least going to listen to offers, whether they're actively shopping a guy or not. But, one thing that people think why this could be a reality is the Astros have typically been unwilling to go above the first payroll penalty number, and they are very much above that right now. So Framber Valdez, he's to that point in arbitration. He'll make $12 million this year. If he has a good year this year, that could bump up to maybe $18 million in his last year of arbitration. So, obviously real money, but he's been one of the Astros' best pitchers. So while I don't know that this is likely to happen, it is really interesting that, if the Astros get really aggressive to shed some money, it could mean that he's available. Now, he's also going to be expensive. You're talking about 2 years of control for, a guy who's really been a top 10 pitcher in the American League over the last 2 to 3 seasons. But, the other thing that I have in my mind is this connection with the Astros. Of course, Dana Brown, who used to be head of the Braves scouting department, is now their general manager. Alex Anthopoulos and him certainly, I'm sure, have a good relationship. And Dana Brown knows the Braves prospects probably better than any other general manager in baseball. So I do wonder if this maybe makes Dana Brown and the Astros a better trade partner than most teams. And, maybe there's some prospects Dana Brown knows and really, really likes for the Braves that other teams wouldn't value as much. So it's interesting to me, and I think Valdez is actually a really good fit for the Braves. Like I said, he's been a top 10 Cy Young candidate over the last 2 years. He led the league in innings pitched last year. He got over 200 innings pitched, and the year before that, he was at 190. So this guy is durable. He gives you innings. He has a lot of playoff experience over the last 3 years. He's a lefty, so another lefty to combat some of these great lefties the Braves are going to face. So yeah, if he's gettable, man, I would really like the Braves to go after him. He's actually probably as expensive, or maybe even a little more expensive than Dylan Cease. He is certainly more expensive than Corbin Burns, so you definitely have to trade big time to get him. I mean, you're probably talking like an A.J. Smith-Shawver plus a Vaughn Grissom plus maybe 2 more prospects. I mean, so it's a lot. But he also might be one who's a little more likely to sign an extension. So if the Braves are looking away from a Corbin Burns and a Dylan Cease because they're Scott Boras clients and very unlikely to sign an extension, maybe Valdez is more likely to do that. So yeah, he would be an awesome trade target if that's legitimate and if the Astros are really willing to listen to offers. So another trade partner that I think is less natural, but could be willing to trade a starting pitcher is the Miami Marlins. Of course, being in the National League East, maybe they would be unwilling to talk to the Braves, but I think they'd probably be open to it. You know, the Marlins still desperately want more offense. There was a rumor that came out about a week ago that there were some talks between the Marlins and Kansas City that would exchange Vinny Pasquantino, who is the young first baseman for Kansas City, who's had a good start to his career, for Jesus Luzardo, who's a very good lefty pitcher. You guys will probably remember him. He pitched against the Braves multiple times last year. So Luzardo has 3 years of control. He's very solid, you know, about 3.5 ERA, good stuff. And so he'd be probably the most expensive pitcher we've talked about because of those 3 years of control. So that's a thought. I don't know if the Braves could or would be willing to give up what would be required to get him. Another name, though, that I would be interested in is Trevor Rogers. So another lefty out of the Marlins staff. He's had some injuries over the last couple years, and honestly 2 unproductive seasons after he finished second place in the Rookie of the Year voting in 2021. So he still has 3 years of control. He wouldn't be as expensive because he's basically had 2 lost years. So maybe Grissom plus one other prospect would get Trevor Rogers. Again, he does not bring the certainty and the track record that some of these other guys do. So that's why he's cheaper, right? So anyways, I think the Marlins, you know, could and would be interested in Vaughn Grissom because they just need hitting so much, and he does provide that. Well, guys, you know, we are going to continue to hope. I think all of us out there know that the Braves still, you know, that one big hole is probably a starting pitcher, and I'm really hoping that they do add one, and Framber Valdez would be an awesome one for me. And, you know, obviously we'll see. But guys, we will move forward. Like I said, I might try to give you one more episode before Christmas. I'm not promising that, but I'd really like to get back with you, especially if we get some news of the Braves doing anything between now and then. And I also want to provide you guys with some additional content as we go through this off season. You know, there's going to be some dead weeks as we go through, and I have some ideas for some other fun episodes to bring to you guys. So I hope you are interested in listening to those, especially if you are a diehard, lifelong Braves fan like me. I think you'll enjoy some of those episodes.